Hi everyone, my name is Jakaš Kapin. I'm here with Johanna Seiler. Johanna is one of the founding members of the Global Vocal Improvisation Network. She's an improviser, teacher, performer, pedagogue, and much more, based in Germany. She's also my friend, and today we thought it would be a good time to chat and find out a little bit more about her history with improvisation, her history with Rhiannon's work, and all of her other wonderful projects. From my point of view, she's someone that works really hard and travels around Germany, has many different communities, and I'm very excited to find out more and also to share more with you. So, Johanna, good morning.
Good morning, Jaka.
We are recording this at the beginning of 2026. Does it feel like a new start at this point? How are you in this winter? You just told me that you had a very busy period before Christmas.
Well, for me, it's a bit like with my work and my music, it's more like New Year's is after the summer, since I like to take an extended summer break from teaching and projects. So but when we said hello today, I even kind of forgot to tell you Happy New Year because my Happy New Year is mostly starting in September.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And
yeah.
also, it's good that we caught you on a break so we can kind of do a bit of reflecting and look back. And to be honest, New Year's kind of start with spring, don't they? It's
Yeah.
springtime, March, April with the spring equinox. So this is like a little bit of a reflection period for some hibernation and looking back. So to start off with, I wanted to ask you maybe anything that you want to tell us about your relationship with vocal improvisation and how it started. I mean, you can frame who you are if you want to, what you've mostly been focused on, but then I would like to ask you, yeah, about how it started because I know you had a whole other musical life. So, in any way that you want to share a little bit about that story?
Yeah, okay. Well, I met Rhiannon and the whole genre of vocal improvisation actually by accident, or by coincidence, or I'd rather say by big luck for me. In my early 20s, I was about to try and find who I was as a kid. Somehow, well, I had a very strict and dangerous and well meant but suffocating upbringing. And I felt like I had lost my flow. I had lost who I was. In many things I did, I could feel that I'm fearful and no more authentic. And I had this picture in my mind of this kid I was, hopping around in the living room, improvising plays with flute, guitar, piano, and composing little pieces. And that had kind of all gone. Well, yeah, I had become a classical pianist and I loved it. I started with giving concerts at age 10. But I also knew that I wouldn't want to do this profession forever. So there I was in a big transformation period, always with this picture of this child in mind that I wanted to become again, like free, authentic, kind of lost to the world, just doing me, yeah, without fear. And smack in the middle of this, another accident, I meant to go in a certain concert and I mixed up the dates and ended up in Rhiannon's concert. And I have never seen or heard in my life what she did there. And what I saw is there is a woman liberated, free, full of joy, totally authentic, and she knows what she's doing. So I went and asked her, do you teach? And I remember she looked at me as if I was an alien because of course she taught, because of course she was well known. Only I had no idea about this whole genre. So then I went to visit her in the US because there wasn't anything over here at the time. And I took some private lessons and went to my first two workshops she gave in California then, or one in Portland, one in California. Um, And I actually was scared to death in these workshops. I could see that I knew I had a lot of experience with music and that, concerning the content, it shouldn't be a problem. But I just was so scared, and I could see how others weren't. And they were exploring and experimenting. And already in this first workshop where I was, I had a pulse of 180 all the time, and told myself, see, this is what's wrong with you. You should be joyful and free. And I could see how the others, with Rhiannon's help, got everybody got more beautiful, more authentic, more free, and more themselves. And the music started to become more flowy. And I was hooked. I'm like, oh my God. Because due to, me trying to become me again, and I felt that, my own psychology and the problematic stuff was stuck in my throat. And I could also hear that in others. And then it got stuck less and less. And the music became more flowy. And that, of course, totally interested me, this combination of psychology and music. So basically, I was hooked already. And I can also say in this first workshop, someone told me about Bobby McFerrin. Bobby, please apologize, but I was in the classical music world. I did not know about you. So, and then I discovered Bobby McFerrin, and I was inflamed. I mean, I sang with all his CDs. I checked out what he did. I was amazed what one could do with the voice, and then quite fast, because I was so inflamed, I discovered this whole area, and I felt strongly, because here in Germany, I did not know anyone who did that at the time, and it felt like people didn't know about it. And then I felt, if they only knew, they'd all do it. It's liberating. It's beautiful. It brings such a tender and strong connection between people, which isn't warped by codependence or other stuff. And one can learn so much about music and how it wants to be when you go in the flow. So I started teaching.
Yeah, so I wanted to also ask you, for people that are listening, so they give some sense of time. When did this happen? When you discovered vocal improvisation, started working with Rihanna, and then bring it back to Germany?
I think it was 2001 or something like this.
So the new millennium.
Yeah, that's why I say 2001, because I remember there was a 2 in front already with the year, but very early in the 2000s.
Yeah, and it's so interesting also for me when I visited California. West Coast has its own culture, right? Of embodiment. People are used to dancing. People are used to being expressive. So I'm sure that's different than what you discovered in Germany. So maybe second question, how was it to start teaching in Germany? What can you tell us about what you did first? What was your experience of starting to teach in Europe?
Well, let's say it like this. I hadn't still a name as a pianist, but the classical musicians weren't the ones being interested in vocal improvisation, at least not the ones I knew and at the time. And nobody knew me as a singer improviser, and it felt like nobody knew about this type of vocal improvisation. So, but still, as I said, I was totally hooked and inflamed. So basically, the first workshops were like this. 1 or 2 people booked the workshops. Then I bribed a couple of my piano students that they get piano lessons for free if they came to the workshops. And I did emotional pressure with my friends. If you ever loved me, you have to come to the workshops. So this is how I got a group, because, this is how it started. And somehow that was totally okay for me, because I was, my friend said I'm naive, it's never going to work. But I was just so sure that if people only knew, they'd come. And then it kind of was like this. The people who had come in my workshops, they would tell others, and then more people came. But I was very lucky because I want to keep it short. It was also like a chance encounter. Someone had the courage to book me for his big symposium for psychologists. He was looking for someone who could do a singing event, a short singing event with the whole audience of his convention. And I even told him, I could do circle songs. However, so far I only had the chance to do this with, let's say, 50 people max. And he had 500. And I told him, well, the system is the same. I believe I can do it, but I haven't done it. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. I still can't believe the courage and trust of this man. And then I taught also some little workshops on this convention, and also did a little circle song event, like 20 minutes with those 500 people. And I hadn't expected what happened then. After this convention, I got booked to 7 different cities in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So they wanted me to go to their conventions or to do workshops there. And this is how it actually all really started.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say at this stage? What were you teaching in the workshop? So you spoke about circle singing. Were you also doing vocal river exercises? Any other forms where people could create their own parts?
Well, I mostly teach, I used to and also do now mostly teach via small ensemble improvisation, because I believe the intrinsic structure of music and groove and melody and homophonic music, polyphonic music, you can experience this more direct when you are one voice in an ensemble. And then, in my opinion, and then you do circle songs, and then you just have to learn a bit about leadership. And, I don't want to make that sound small. It's also a big thing, but I believe that the learning is more effective, and you can have deeper experiences in small ensemble improvisation. So this is what I went for. And of course, I started with some exercises I had learned from Rhiannon. This was pre-Vocal River, pre-her book, pre-everything. And then it was like I watched those people in my courses and listened to them, and I'm like, okay, she is not hearing what's going on. He always does this stuff. And they do melodies and some bassliney things, but apparently they don't hear the middle voices, or he can't feel the pulse. Okay. So, and then I think like for 10 years, I was obsessed to keep inventing formats and exercises that would allow the people to experience something they hadn't before, like experiencing pulse, experiencing middle voices, or understanding, oh, this is where my note sits in the intonation, because I didn't want to become one more theory teacher. There are enough great books out there if you want to learn things, or so I try to invent formats that intrinsically make people experience what they didn't hear yet. Mm-hmm. And that worked. So basically now, of course, those basics that Bobby used and Rhiannon uses, like these little orchestras when you stack patterns on top of each other. Of course, that's also part of my training, because it's just, super helpful and makes a lot of things clear. And definitely, my work is based in the roots are what I saw with Bobby and with Rhiannon or Joy Blake or David Worm. Thanks, David, for my vocal percussion snare drum. Yes. However, I had to go my way with my experience. I heard something, you know, they don't hear what I hear. I mean, of course, people don't have to hear exactly what I hear, but I mean, like musical structure. Some haven't done much music before, and I was lucky enough to, to have gone through the well-tempered clavier of Bach by the age of 10. So this is when I might not have known anything about polyphony, but I hear it. So, and so I kept trying. So, how can I make them hear it without stress, without fear, and on a path of dedication, yes, and joy? So,
Mhm.
this is how my, I don't know, 250 exercises came to life.
Yes, and why do you think the connection with psychologists works so well? So you said you were invited by, a conference of psychology. So what's your perception on why that connection worked? I mean, I also find that some therapists, let's say, there are people that listen differently, right? They already have better listening. They already engage with someone else relationally in a different way. So they could be people that are better suited also for, small ensemble improvisation. But what about that connection interests you, or what link, would you make between the community's practices?
Yeah. Well, I believe it also always depends on who a person is, that makes for who they connect with. And so I have a threefold interest in vocal improvisation. One is, of course, the music, skills, musical roles, harmonic structures, whatever, everything you can practice. You can practice yourself into your third life because it's like such a big world. Um, and the other very important thing to me is how to connect to your source of music, to the musical flow where there's no fear, and and where you can, just let it flow out of you. For some people, that's a spiritual experience. For others, it's the connections to their intuition or to music itself. I don't tell, of course, anybody what they're supposed to feel, but that's a big part. And the third big part is, so I believe to seriously do improvisation, to go a long path with improvisation, even if you don't want to, there is some personal development in there. So because in improvisation, you are the same person you are in everyday life, and you have your little knots and your little beliefs and your little or big fears, and your typical way to connect. And improvisation teaches you which of those are hindering you, and over time you let them go, you know. And this is what connects to psychology, to become authentic, to let go of fear, to let go of hindering beliefs, and to be connected to your source, whether it's the source for music or the source for life. It doesn't really matter. It's about authenticity, about going towards liberation. It's about dignity and veracity. And in a way, that's also what psychology does from a different angle, you
Mm.
know?
Yes, and talking about the source, I'm really interested in your relationship to your voice. Like from someone that grew up as a, instrumentalist, I'm sure you were singing, but you were mostly translating, right, music through your hands and so on. And then also in classical music, this we also share. Like I mostly grew up as a choral person, singing a lot of classical music. And there you're not the creator, right? The source is somewhere else. You're the composer. You separate, right? They're separate roles. And in improvisation, we reintegrate them and we
Yeah.
realize, or even when I talk to a lot of classical singers, their perception of what they are, they could be just an interpreter of something, but then they have to become their own source. So, how would you describe your journey with your voice over the decades or the years? What are some of the learnings that you might want to share with someone, either something that helped or something that still stays with you strongly about this transition of reintegrating, all the roles that sometimes in classical music are separate?
Mhm. Well, without knowing, I guess I was already on my way. You know, like at Mozart's time, for example, in the piano concertos, there are these cadenzas. They're called. I think they're called cadenzas also in English. Nowadays, they're written sheet music, but at the time they were improvised parts. This is where the pianist could express what he or she thought to about this piece or how they felt. And I used to do this already then. And also sometimes I thought, you know, why do I have to interpret Bach or Brahms that way? Why do teachers always say it has to be like this? So, and I liked to give it my own twist. I exploded several committees when I was like tested or and graded, and there were always some teachers that sat in the jury that thought that was great, and others thought it was like impertinent and absurd. So this was also, I guess, why I already wanted out of not being allowed to change any notes and to do my own interpretation. And so once I had let go of this fear that was for me a psychological thing, I believe from my really, really strict and dangerous upbringing. I must say I kind of just exploded into the freedom. And I'm especially interested in bringing to a synthesis this authenticity and freedom with, you know, in a way, mastery, you know, because I still have nothing against practicing. But in the moment of doing, and that's what's so different in improvisation, um, one shouldn't say must, but I'm going to say must, you must let go. And be open to what the flow of music wants to be in this moment. And you can't be like, cool, yeah, I do a modulation and I'm doing the extra odd meter in 17 because I'm so cool. That doesn't work. You might do an odd meter, or something might come out that you have practiced, but you can't control it if you want some fairy dust on your music. If you want to really connect to your ensemble partners, and if you really want the music to be touching and full of true joy. And that's what's so different. And I have learned so much through improvisation. You know, alone that what I learned a lot was, oh my God, nobody ever told me that groove is actually in your body, you know, from all the sitting at the piano. I also like to dance a lot, so I connected it with music, with dance and movement. And yeah, for me, I must say, it might be boring for our listeners, but for me, it was like rather a finally I can let the music out that wants to come out. And what I also liked is that it then isn't written in stone. It's the music of the moment, and in the next moment, it might be a completely different music. So, and I guess also while I was on my way to be free and authentic again, to be me, it was also important to me that nobody can judge you on improvisation. You know, because who says it's right or wrong? If it's authentic, if it's my expression, it's valid, period.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. And speaking about musicianship, I think that a lot of people sometimes, including myself, there can be a struggle between the authentic expression and then the idea around mastery or practice. So I think sometimes people then, they either stay in a place of openness when they're not thinking about such things as the, musical elements, or they find it hard when they are studying, quote unquote, right, theory of music, and then they find that it's too narrow. So how do we integrate those two, or what kind of useful principles could you share? Something that, in your opinion, really works to help people, bridge those two, and really, yeah, have also the freedom and enjoyment when they're practicing musical elements, and how they can then flow into their free expression space.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
question.
It's a big question. And I was just thinking about all the people I met who struggled with this. Um, the solution is not easy, but it is actually simple. It's the main practice is to separate those two. So you've got to know what you're doing at this moment. Am I practicing one particular thing? Like, I don't know, I want to be able to do modulations or something, or, as I said, odd meters, or whatever you're practicing, even like the difference between major and minor. What is it? What is it? And not to mix this up with that has anything to do with improvisation. That is like if I read a cookbook and put out, aha, I need flour, I need eggs. What do I have to do with the eggs? Aha. So it's just ingredients. So, and then the other practice is to let go and practice forever till in the third next life. To be with yourself, with the music, and with your ensemble partners, and to not meddle. So I don't believe that it can really work, but I always go for the music. To me now is the definition has changed. Music is the thing that comes out of you big and full of truth and with fairy dust. Yeah, this is what we're going for. Yeah, if you want this music, you can't meddle in improvisation. You have to show up as a whole person and open your mouth and your ears and, if possible, yourself, so that you don't protect yourself too much from the others, and trust that this is going to be the music that has to come out in this moment, and not try in this moment to do what you have practiced. And so here's my promise to everybody. Hi. So what you have practiced, what you have, the flour and the eggs and what you practice, it'll come out in your improvisation, but not tomorrow. It'll come out about 4 to 6 months later. So, and that's the patience one needs, because of course I have practiced this and it's not coming out, and then I try to force it into the music and it's not going to work. It makes you tight, it makes you discontent, irritable, everything. So my solution for my students, and I can self-confidently say it has worked for everybody who has tried. For many people I've taught, over 6,000 people in the last 25 years. If you separate these two, and if you go into trust and patience, and let the music in the moment of improvising be what it wants to be, then everything you've practiced will come out, just not tomorrow, in a couple of months.
Maybe I also want to ask you in a similar vein, how is it to then work with others who are not singers? I know you had a trio project or still do, have worked with dancers, with instrumentalists. How it is then to bring this practice that maybe, exists perfectly in a small group of people to others who are maybe mostly moving or playing an instrument or doing something else as part of the improvisation. And also this is kind of how we met. We met doing an improvised session by the Berlin Wall with a dancer and a filmmaker. But they were all kind of people that are quite versed in these values. So maybe the other question for you is then sometimes you work with someone outside of singing and you realize maybe what those needed values are. So how would you describe, what are the top values or skills that are needed for this type of collaboration or making music together for you?
Well, the most important thing is the willingness to show up in the moment, if possible, your whole self, and to be in a place where you have let go the wish to control anything. and you are able to be open to just listen. And yeah, like listening and singing is like it's like a constant flow, and you don't meddle with the music. You don't have to have the last word. You don't have to have the most beautiful solo. You don't have to start the piece to really let it happen. In a way, it's called a medio passive Einstellung. Now I don't know the English word.
Cannot help you, sadly.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So it's active, but it's also not active. So you're there. And, and of course, then I like with professionals who have their skills together. It's also, if like total beginners have mastered this thing of showing up with who they are and not meddling with the moment and letting the piece evolve as it wants to be, that's also great. Actually, there's also fairy dust, but for me to go on stage with the project or so, and for me, I hope that doesn't sound arrogant, to stay interested. It's of course lovely if people bring a lot to the table, with musical possibilities or also dance moves and possibilities. Yeah.
Mm. And then lastly, I'm also interested in how do you view the global community as it has developed? I mean, even through the well, now we have, I don't know, maybe close to 1,400 members, more than 50 countries. You can really see the different things that people are up to. You've been in Germany and in Europe for teaching for the last 25 years. How have you witnessed the difference? Where do you think the communities are going? What's working really well? What are the challenges that you would like to point out? Anything that you want to share about your view on it?
I don't think I'm gonna point out many challenges because I'm like over the moon happy that this is happening. My perspective is like about 15, 17 years ago. I really, really, really tried to get people together. I even still till today, I have this, domain that says the European Improvoices.com. I really try to bring people together, and they came, we had little festivals and stuff, but then it kind of dispersed again. So, and I traveled to Switzerland, to Italy, to people I knew were established as improvisers and teachers, but somehow it wasn't the time yet. So, and I could like feel since 10 years, about 10 years, I don't know, I haven't pinpointed it, how vocal improvisation becomes visible because there is more community work. And that's also something, improvisation, yeah, you can do it alone, but it lives from connectedness. It lives from, from communities. And it actually, I find it even socioeconomically transformative, this work. It makes us better people, in my opinion. It brings joy. From some people, it takes away loneliness. Just being connected in song, it bridges differences. So it's absolutely necessary, and I'm so over the moon that it's happening. And I'm really curious as to how it's gonna unfold more. At the moment, I'm in this state of just being very, very happy to see, there's a festival in France now. What are the British people? I count you to the British people in that moment doing. Fabulous. There are concerts, I don't know how you really call it, like sing-alongs where people can just join in, and it doesn't have to be, they don't get taught or anything, just joyful singing together, and courses and concerts. And I can feel that this genre is so much more visible now. And of course I love it because it's so dear to my heart. And sometimes I'm a bit sad that so far I haven't established enough spots of time to connect even more with everything that's going on. Because I must say, in this, my sadness, like 17 years ago or so, that, okay, it's not working. I followed this smart sentence someone told me once, which is create the fellowship you crave. And now I'm lucky to say I checked this out for the interview. I looked in my address book. I have there around me there are about 100 people who really, really are doing this work, who have connected it with their specialties: therapy, dance, working in social context, working with clowns, with their specialties, who actually I am, honored to work with for over a decade now. They keep coming back. And then there's about 300 people I actually really see every year. And and these people, and that's the cool thing, they now have connected with each other without me also. So their projects, their performances, there is a community. And I'm hoping that this is gonna like all flood into the great ocean, of global community. So this what has been luckily created around me, that this is swapping back and forth with the global community. It's just fabulous. I love it. it's probably not a very distinguished thing I'm saying, but probably you can see in my very happy face that it's just, yes, go community. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Thank you, Johanna. And hopefully now, you have this big community and you can sometimes take a break and have more pauses, and then you can visit other people. There's always more time for that now that there are
Yeah.
more events. But thank you for being part of the WELL. Thank you for doing this interview. Your link to your website will be in the comments so people can check out more if they're interested. And thank you for everyone who is listening. If you're not a member of the WELL, of course, go to thewellvocal.com and join us and join the global community. Thank you, Johanna, for today. Have
Thank
a
you,
beautiful,
Yaka.
restful winter. See you
Yes,
soon in
you too.
person.
Thank you. Have a great day. And thank you to you listening and watching people. Go improvise.
Yes.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.